5-day. Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. Oh.
Which one? Not mine, not for me.
Yeah, I moved here.
Oh, okay. No, I don't work there. No, it's just been calling me.
All right, we'll gossip more about that later. Hi, everybody. I'm Dorian. Welcome very much to Brockton Writer Series. And hello to everybody online as well. We wish to acknowledge that the Brockton organizers do our work on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, and Mississaugas of the Credit. And we have to acknowledge the ways that people contribute to the silences and the legacies of genocide and colonization on this land, particularly if you're of a settler background like me, and that we need to make spaces at events like these for Indigenous voices. So, please keep an eye on our upcoming programming, because we do have that as a really important aspect of our programming. And we also hope that land acknowledgements, when we do them here, are not just words that we say. We hope that they are calls to actions. So I really like to invite people to follow Indigenous journalists, ABTN, all the wonderful resources that there are out there. Listen to Indigenous activists. And get involved with some of the things that are going on, be it, land back movements or missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls or protecting land defenders, because we're at a climate crisis situation, and really Indigenous knowledge and environmental stewardship is the only way that humanity itself is going to survive. So I really hope that we take this seriously. And there's lots of ways you can get involved, be it writing to your elected officials. And if you don't know, you can mail them for free. You don't need a stamp. You just send them an email, print it off, stick it in the mail, because for some reason they care about mail. And you can give money to the organizations that I was talking about, Indigenous organizations. You can show up to protests. You can also buy Indigenous books. I'm sure there are some right here that you can buy after the show. I mentioned that this was written into our mandate. It's also written into our mandate to program BIPOC people with disabilities, and of course LGBTQIA people. Be very silly, be a glad day, not have that inclusion. So this is a really affirming space for Black Lives Matter, for anti-Islamophobia, for really speaking out against all of the oppressions and all of the genocides, including what's happening very blatantly right now in front of us in Gaza. And so those are also things that you can donate to and write to your elected officials about and show up to protests for. And there's been some wonderful, wonderful literary ones. I saw firsthand most recently at a Poets for Palestine event, so you can mix your activism and your entertainment sometimes. Another one on the 22nd, right here, Poets for Palestine. It's going to be a jam for a really, really critical cause. Now that I need to actually read again. So as usual for Brockton, tonight's lineup will include a guest speaker, or then a doctor, with a brief Q&A for that person, and then our 4 readers, and then a group Q&A for them all. If you are on the YouTubes, please type your questions into the chat as they occur to you, because there's a bit of a lag, so that helps us ask the questions. And if you're here, I really hope you'll not be shy, raise your hand, ask your questions. There's no silly questions. They're all good questions. As long as they're actually questions, not necessarily I have a comment. I don't like those questions. And so Brockton Writer Series was founded by Farzana Doctor in November 2009, which means we've been active in the literary scene for over a decade. Our what?
16?
16,
Yes.
oh, we've got to update our script for over 15 years.
Yes.
For 16 years now, oh my God, that's amazing that we're still doing this, guys. Yeah, no, through the trials and tribulations, all the location changes and funding, whatever, so we're still going strong, and I love that for us. Woo! Our Brockton volunteers team is myself, Dorian Emerton, Faye Dong, Iris Robbins LaRive, Genia Shistanova, Kiri Stockwood, and Marcella Areva Yorebe. And also Nancy K. Clark. So yes, unfortunately, we lost funding from Ontario Arts Council for this season, so we're able to continue for the next couple of shows thanks to the Toronto Arts Council. Toronto Arts Council. They don't fund enough as we usually spend. So we are still going forward with our big donation drive. We'll be projecting a QR code. You know, if you could share whenever you share and like us on social media, because even after today, if you're here for your special favorite writer or you are our special writers, if you could follow our socials and like boost us up, that would help with the donations, the visibility and all of that. And if you are online, you can go to our website. There's a big donate now button right there. And we will also pass the hat for cash if anybody still has old school money hanging around. Thank you so much to Glad Day for being here with us tonight. And now on to our guest speaker. Farzana Doctor is a Toronto-based author, activist, and psychotherapist. She's written 5 critically acclaimed lit fic novels: Stealing Nazreen, 6 Meters of Pavement, All Inclusive, 7, and The Beauty of Us, as well as a poetry collection, You Still Look the Same, and a self and community care workbook for helpers and activists, 52 Weeks to a Sweeter Life. She co-founded Brockton Writer Series and was its curator until 2017.
So much, and it's such a pleasure to be here, to be back here. And I'm gonna just, so 15 minutes and then 15 minutes for questions, yeah? So, normally this is a talk that is about 90 minutes long, so I'm gonna just go through a couple of psych hacks and I'm gonna go through them a little bit quickly because we don't have a lot of time, but please, we're an intimate group here. Please ask questions, and on the people on YouTube, please ask your questions as well. So some of these ideas are in my book, 52 Weeks for a Sweeter Life, and I always like to put this up because when Biff Naked says something nice about you have to talk. Could you go to the next slide? Or is there, do I have a clicker? Or no?
You can tell, you can just tell
You
me.
just, okay, so can you go to the next slide? And so the first hack is to really get some understanding of how your nervous system works. So I'm going to be talking about a construct, a framework from Daniel Siegel. So can you just go one down? That's it, yeah. Okay, so have a look at this house. So this is a way of thinking about our nervous system. And there's the window of capacity. His model is called the window of tolerance model, by the way, but a lot of people have rethought it to be window of capacity because we want to think about our capacity more than we want to. Do I need to stand right there for the YouTube?
It's good.
It's good.
It's
Okay, I'll stay put here.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to think about our capacity versus what we can tolerate. So the window of capacity is kind of like the ideal nervous system state in which we feel calm and curious and socially engaged. We don't stay there very long. Our nervous systems have evolved in such a way that we are actually pretty sensitive to threat. And that can be real threat, like, you know, lion is coming after us, but most of the time it's threat that is more perceived. So I've done these talks many times, but my heart is beating a little faster than if I was just sitting at the back. So I'll talk about the next place. So if you go up the ladder, then you head to hyperarousal. So hyperarousal is when we have more fight, flight, maybe freeze energy in our bodies. We are anxious, it's harder to settle. This is the place where we're getting irritable with people and where our hearts are beating just a little bit faster, right? This is a place where even though we're really tired at night, we can't sleep. And then think about down towards the basement, and that is hypoarousal. Hypoarousal is the kind of playing dead state, right? If we were at fight, flight, freeze, this is falling down, this is collapse. It can feel like spaciness, it can feel like dissociation. Both places, up and down, are states of overwhelm that come through because we're feeling some kind of a threat. So if you can just go one more. Okay, so it's really normal to shift all over the place all day long. We don't want to feel any shame about that. Sometimes it can look messy, right? Sometimes when we're really irritable with people, when we're getting into fights with people, when we're having road rage, or when we are frozen, or when we are really spaced out, it feels messy, but we just need to know we're just moving around all the time based on what our nervous system is perceiving in the outside world, and also at the inside. Even being too hungry can put us into hyperarousal. Okay. So chronic stress and trauma is going to shrink this window of capacity. So if you imagine that this main floor, its ceiling just got lower. So when we're experiencing trauma and chronic stress, we're just going to have a more bouncy time to hyper and hypoarousal because the space is just smaller. But then active coping, when we get loved by people, when we meditate, when we exercise, when people cook us food, all that kind of stuff, that will expand the window. And then we have a lot more space to work with. Next one. So why is this important? Why am I showing you this? It's this point in purple. When you are doing really well with your writing, if you're writers or any creative pursuit, when you're in that flow state, you're in your window capacity. So that's why you need to know about this model. And then you need to know how to get back into it because I'm talking about writer's block. Writer's block is a state of overwhelm where we're either spaced out, dissociated, or we're really anxious and all we want to do is vacuum our house instead of writing. And who does that? I do that. So if we can be checking in with our nervous system in that time where we're like, I was supposed to write in this 2-hour period. I finally have this time to write and I'm not writing. Why is it? What's going on in my body? The task is check in. Maybe everyone do that right now. Check in right now and just try to guess. Where are you? If you were in this house, where are you? Any answer is correct.
The window of capacity.
Oh, perfect. How about someone who's going to read their writing next? Anybody not in your window? Anybody feeling a little nervous? Anyone get a little nervous just
I'm a
before?
little bit in the face.
In
I'm
here?
also thirsty.
You're in the basement. All right. Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay. So next one, please. So how do we come back into the window if we just realize that we're in the basement or we're in the attic? Well, somatic strategies. So there are a gazillion somatic hacks that you can use. And if you're on Instagram and you have a hashtag, you know, look up somatic hacks. There are a lot of people talking about this now. My suggestion is to find 3 somatic hacks that take less than 2 or 3 minutes to do that are going to help you come back into your window. So my favorite ones are often active ones because both for the hypoarousal. So with hypoarousal, I want to get the energy back in my body, right? I want to go from playing dead to being alive again. And in hyperarousal, I want to release flight energy, right? So jumping jacks work for me, or dancing for 3 minutes, like vigorous, short stuff. But if you're not into vigorous, short stuff, there's other things. So you can breathe. Everyone do it with me right now. You can breathe with a longer exhalation. So let's breathe in for 3 and out for 6. Okay, I'll count it out. So in 1, 2, 3, and then out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, let's do it on your own now. For those of you who like that, that's maybe on your list. Bilateral stimulation, anything that moves one side of the body and then the other side of the body, passing an object from one to another. Walking, bilateral stimulation, listening to something by binaural beats, you know, one side and the other side, that's also a good way. So you just have to look up your somatic hacks and find a way to come back into your window. So that's the first strategy. I'll move on to the second one. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Why does it work to do like one side and then the other?
So it's supposed to help the two parts of the brain kind of communicate with one another across the barrier. That's
really
like,
interesting.
yeah, it's an interesting one.
Thank you.
And some of these will work for some people and not for others, and you just have to know what your 3 favorite hacks are.
Is this where, you know, some people say that to like put ice on the back of your neck to stop a panic
Yes.
attack and stuff?
Yes, yes,
Similar.
yeah. So whatever you have ever tried, that might be a strategy, and it might be a strategy for a panic attack, but it might not be a strategy for writer's block. You just have to
Right.
play with it. I learned a new one where you pull the, and so I've been seeing if this will work for me. You pull your earlobes down, like really like a good long tug, 20 times. And I usually get a yawn. It's coming. And sometimes a yawn is the signal that you've just had a nervous system reset. And you can see, did that get me into the window? Did that make me feel like, oh, I can sit down and write again? Cool. So that's what that is. Any other questions before I go on to the next? Okay.
What about like, let's say you exercise consistently, but you don't actually do anything in the moment if you feel overwhelmed. You have like a consistent overall healthy lifestyle. Would that still be effective, or do you need to?
It's always
spot
good.
treatment?
It's always good. So these are about nervous system resets. So it is a spot treatment. But of course, you know, if you have a workout at the end of the day, you might be releasing some of this at the end of the day. I'd like to have the spot treatment too. Helps with getting things done.
What does the yawn have to do with the nervous system? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't actually know how to answer that, but yeah, it's one of the signals that somatic therapists will look for to see that the nervous system is reset. So yawns are good. Anything else? On to the next one? Okay, let's carry on then. We're doing this quick and dirty. Okay. So often when we think about the inner critic, does everyone know what the inner critic is? If anyone who doesn't know what the inner critic is, you all have a really good probably relationship.
Yes.
You know your inner critic very well, probably. Okay, so often we try to push away the inner critic or not listen to the inner critic or not take the inner critic too seriously. But that doesn't work for me. And this is why, I think. So in internal family systems therapy, so if you are curious about this, you can just look up IFS or internal family systems therapy, or Dick Schwartz, who is the founder. It's basically parts work in therapy, and parts work has existed for a very long time, but he has popularized it and trademarked things and all those stupid things that people do. Anyway, so he has good things to say, but it's all trademarked and stuff. So anyway, so our inner critics are managers in this theory, managers that are helping us out. And so there's a good intention. Okay, so can we go to the next thing? So what we want to do, instead of pushing away or saying, shut up, let me just write. We actually want to tune in and have an experience with our inner critic. So, what do you hear? Mine says this is crap, mine says this isn't original, this, mine says no one's gonna come to your launch. It's gonna get reviewed badly, on and on and on, right? So we're gonna do this together in a minute, but I'll just go through the steps. So then the next step, you try validating the fear that lies just below what is being said. So my validation would sound like, yeah, sometimes putting art out into the world and risking criticism is really scary. Validating the feeling. And then the next step is to thank it for its service. I know you're just trying to protect me from humiliation, rejection, disappointment, failure, whatever it is, right? Thank you so much for doing that. And then the next step after that is remind the inner critic that you can handle it. So the reason for this is there's this understanding that for most of us, our inner critic has developed very young. This is actually an inner child or young part of us that is active. And this is all like a theoretical framework, so just kind of go with it for a second. So the idea is that, these parts are a little bit fragmented and cut off from today's reality. So these parts might not know that we're adults operating in adult lives with hopefully adult supports, with the people who love us in our adult world. So what we're saying to this inner critic, which is really an inner child part, is, you know what, I'm a grown up and I have people who support me today, even when I fail, right? So sometimes you have to go beyond that. If you really tune in and you listen, you might hear a rebuttal. Yeah, but don't you remember 3 years ago when So then you have to, again, validate the fear. One of the things I like to do is I like to say in a sing-songy voice, talking to a kid, did you know that it's 2025? And I'm going to be 55 this year. Yeah, I know that's really old. That's really old to a young part, right? And, I can handle it. I've handled disappointment. I've handled rejection. How do I do that? I call my friend. I talk to my partner. I just manage it. I won't die. Say things like that. Okay. So let's try it together. So what I'd like you to do is, and I'll walk you through the steps. Feel free to close your eyes because sometimes we can access some of these non-thinky things a little bit better when we close our eyes. So the first step is tune in. What do you hear? What is your inner critic saying? You got that by validating the fear that's just under what the harsh words are. Just notice if there's any relaxing that comes when you validate a fear. And then you can say, thank you. Basically, thank you for the warning. I know you're just trying to protect me. Whatever way makes sense, let them know that you can handle it. Anybody want to share anything or ask a question? Anything surprising come up, unexpected? Anything you'd like to share with strangers?
Went straight to a mortality theater. It got very dark.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
your dad died.
yeah, because I think when we experience really harsh or humiliating or difficult things as children and we don't have enough support around us, because most of us didn't, right? We can feel like we're gonna die. So there's a reason why these parts of us are so protective. So you may have to keep reminding that part that you didn't actually die. And that you're really old now. And you're still here, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Gosh, that was vulnerable. Thank you. Anybody else want to share anything that arose unexpected or a question?
It made me feel like I could sort of let myself off. I could just sort of let it go and say, yeah, that might happen.
Yeah,
That's okay. There'll still be people around me that love.
yeah. You could just let it go.
You can let it.
Yeah. There's another strategy that is often also works with this is the agree with it strategy. Yeah, it's true. I might actually die and it's gonna be okay. Or yeah, I might be booed by everybody and I'll survive. Or it's true. Only 2 people will show up to my launch. And those will be the 2 people that will love me. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Anything on the YouTube? Before I continue on?
Heather, what says the ear pulling thing is supposed to work for hiccups too.
Ah, nice. Nice. Hi, Heather. Okay. So I still have what, 5 minutes or so? Sure. Yeah, to keep
I
talking.
mean, we've been starting to do questions throughout, so.
Yeah. Okay, so you tell me when I should actually stop.
Okay.
You like, you'll tell me?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, all right, so I'll keep going just a little bit. Okay. All right, so we'll go on to the next strategy. So this is gratitude. So before you do anything right now, just rate your mood right now between 1 to 10. So 1 would be very low and 10 would be like ecstatic. Just rate it. Okay. So this technique involves, can you go to the next? And then 1 more. Okay, so this technique involves, so let's say I'm feeling so mad, so blah, and I'm like, oh, I know this is my writing time, but I'm sitting here and is that familiar? Am I the only one who says that? I don't want to do this. So I might rate my mood quite low in that moment. My energy is low, right? So, then what you do is you use gratitude. You think of one thing or person that you love for 5 seconds. Everyone just do that right now. Think of one thing or person you love. And just hold that thought for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now feel gratitude for that thing or person for 20 seconds. This is a little longer. Okay, so just notice right now, how is your mood? Did it shift? Anybody? Not so much? Is your mood just so great because I'm standing in front of you? Did anyone notice anything unexpected?
Sometimes I really enjoy these exercises, but sometimes it feels a little hard to focus on gratitude when I tell myself to, it feels a little forced.
Yeah.
Which I know I am kind of forcing it, and
It
it doesn't
is.
make it not valid, but
Yeah,
I
it
go
is.
through feelings being like, why should I even be doing this? This is
Yeah.
silly, and then, the whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, so if that happens for you, it might just be that it's unfamiliar, or it might be that it's not yours, not your technique. We want to have a bunch of these different techniques in our back pockets for the moment when we need them. For me, this one really shifts my mood. And so I will use it often because it's a hack, you know? I don't actually have to do very much. It only takes 25 seconds and usually it does something for me. You go to the next point. You can repeat it with a second thing if you need to. Like if you're like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit better, but I still am feeling crappy, you could repeat it. And pile more on, basically. So the next point, so there is this entire field of research devoted to this. So it's quite an interesting thing that this even exists as a field of study. But if you're interested, you can kind of look it up, and that's the next point. That the science, so you would just look it up and would search in your browser, the science of gratitude. And for some of us, we actually need to know how things work for us to, you know, even try these things. So, so consider that these are just three. I have more, and what I'm going to do on the blog is I'm going to put a link. I'm going to write a few things, but I'm going to put a link to a longer article that has more of these strategies as well. Any other thoughts or questions? Anything coming up?
Getting too old to sit in a couch that low, but with the sprained ankle, it's really special getting over there. Thank you so much. That was so awesome. Obviously, I'm a big Farzana fan, and like the fact that she's like literally a therapist and knows all the psych things as well as all the writing things. It's amazing. It's an amazing combo. Like I'm a public servant in my day job. Not much crosses over. So up first, we have Lisa Baird, a queer poet, essayist, and community acupuncturist. I'd be interested to see what crossover there is there, right? Right. Her chapbook Persephone's Crickets was published by Baseline Press in fall of 2024, and her second poetry collection, When Whales Went Back to the Water, came out with U Alberta Press in early 2025. Lisa.
Good. Me at the back. God, I don't have to adjust a mic in front of people. Like trying to parallel park with my dad watching. So I'm going to start off with the title poem of my new book, When Whales Went Back to the Water. Say life began here in a tidal pool, or hot spring, or where the earth's core steams through fissures in the ocean floor. I like that all these theories are wet. I like to think of the first animal, born of chaos and collision, molecules whipping into cellular form. It is calming to think about geological timescales. Whales took only 10 million years to leave the land and commit to salt water. I like that they swam, then walked, then returned to the water as mammals, with live births and blowholes, diving deeper than any other air breather to linger for hours. I had a story about how quiet it must be down there. It's not anymore. I keep learning things about other people that I never wanted to know. I've been practicing, but can only hold my breath for 3 minutes. It is calming to think about large numbers, how many trillions of cells there are in me, most of them not even human, dividing, dying, killing, feeding, excreting. I feel okay today, so I guess enough of them are cooperating with one another. The wallpaper on my phone says tolerate uncertainty over a picture of a whale. I like that I can't see the wrist or finger bones within its fins. I want to use the word kin like I've always known what it means. This body recalling times before topsoil, bread, or algebra, before doorways, bulk help forgetting or photosynthesis, to reach back to being eager and alive as our common ancestor emerging in the flash and muck, alone, but knowing there'd be more. It's a science fiction poem. This was for you, Therese. It's called Perigee. All we knew was the moon brightened that summer, dimmed the other lights in the sky. When it started to seem unusually huge, some dismissed this as a mass hallucination, pointed to the etymology of the word lunacy. Menstrual cycles were disrupted. Datura bloomed longer and more potent. Amateur astronomers picked out details of the tiniest craters and Maria through toy binoculars. As high tide soaked the first and second floors of beachfront apartment buildings, while low tide left wider stretches of ocean floor flinching like a dry eye, one theory suggested that an asteroid had knocked the moon off course. For weeks, the moon approached, slow and terrifying. Physicists scrambled to predict how long until tsunamis swallowed coastal cities, until the moon's new gravitational muscle heaved the Earth's tectonic plates like a drunk with a losing hand flipping a card table. Everyone who was able spilled outside at moonrise, dragged chairs to front lawns and sidewalks, live streamed the update to the other side of the planet. Neighbors got beyond small talk. End of the world parties took over our block every weekend. People quit diets and bad jobs, drove recklessly, said, I love you. The moon loomed larger and glowed with its own yellow light all month, yoked open. Scientists repeated phrases like inert ball of basalts and silicates and cold dead mass. No one was listening. Armed militia climbed a mountain, took aim. Coyotes and wolves howled, audible in the suburbs. Rumors circulated of an escape plan to Mars. That line has not aged well. No one will forget that night in August it sped up, the collective gasp as the moon swelled rapidly, zooming closer. For one last good look, as if to say, here's what you'll be missing. Even cicadas held still in the hush. Shadows sharpened, snapped into place in the beckoning light as the moon spun 180 degrees, showing us the other side for the first and last time, paused, and exited our slow dance. Broke the ancient agreement of orbit and swung free, leaving us alone in an empty, aching dark. Finish off with some books from the new poem. I'm underslept. You knew what I meant, right? Ode to the Mississauga Women's Clinic. The low lighting in the waiting room where we sit, faces lit by phones or staring at the opposite wall. The receptionist with a soft voice and quick facts. The friend who leaves work in the middle of the day to accompany me. The staff who explain the pills, the nurse who draws the blood. A smaller second waiting room, just me and a woman with blonde hair tugging the blue paper gown over her knees. Are you nervous, I ask. Yes, says Christina, not her real name. And tells me about the 3-year-old son she's raising on her own, her lousy ex, the family doctor who refused to refer her until she was 13 weeks along. I'm 40, I tell her. I still can't believe this happened. You do not look 40, she says, which is what women in their 30s say to women in their 40s when what they want to say is, thank you. Skullcap tincture and ginger tea, ibuprofen and Tylenol, 7 hours of tissue tearing loose, contractions every 5 seconds as organs grip and push, the 14 years of meditation and the second season of Good Girls that make breathing possible. Beth fucks Rio, this time in her and Dean's bed. Suck in air, count to 5, push air out. Annie and Ruby almost rob a bank. Suck in air, count to 5, push air out. The heave and the hot spill. Resting the head on the toilet seat and the moan, the small relief of making a sound, the tremble and sweat, the abiding body, for how could this be anything other than an ode to the body, still shedding, still coming apart, still whole. Are there any other parents in the audience? Okay. This one's for you folks. Start with an ode to the toddler's lung capacity. To the decibel range, uninhibited diaphragm, and sense of timing. How she waits till you arrive in the tiny, tinny bathroom for a diaper change to slam the door, pivot, look you in the eye, and carve you open with sound. Write another. To not stepping on her voice with yours, saying instead, let's not fight. And all the ways you both grope for control in the weeks after her almost stroke include the coldest nights of Ottawa winter, a province-wide emergency stay-at-home order, the flooded basement, that scheduler at the personal support worker company who keeps saying, oh, we'll send help next week, and the stacks of plastic takeout containers and casserole dishes from friends who pause at the bottom of the front steps. If there's anything else I can do. If it weren't for the pandemic, I'd write several poems to the bath mat's imprint on the left side of your face, and the phrases she repeats. Mama cried on the bathroom floor, or Oma died, or Oma's dead. The 90s Bjork she belts while stirring oatmeal onto the table into her lap. The library parking lot with the snow mountain, the demand that you tickle her through her snowsuit, endorphins wheeling like headless reindeer. Write an epic of not knowing, of saying again, we're definitely going home, sweetie, we just don't know when. And the final time her Oma says, bring the dear child here, and strokes her granddaughter's curls with her good arm. Tell it all, that you tend the family ghost by not hitting the children. How you whisper chant her name, call her to you when she's already in your arms, ask the ancestors for help when you struggle with loving her. Trembling with it, needing to be a bigger container, scared that someday she'll say, you made us both too small. And 2 more short ones. Thanks for being a lovely audience, and thanks for booking me. This is called Blue Angel. My dad, nearly 50 and over 6 feet tall, bends down to grasp the bar at the back of my Blue Angel banana seat bike, which I chose at Canadian Tire because it is blue and not pink, and holds me upright, running up and down the block in the summer heat. Was it a string of sun-drunk afternoons? Only an hour? He runs till he doesn't, and maybe he's just chest heaving tired, but I want to believe he knows the moment my center of gravity finds a sweet spot, when my arms, legs, spine, and cerebellum align, and this man who has never let anything go in his life lets go, and I remain upright, pedaling away from him while he beams with relief, but maybe, I want to believe, also pride, as the cicada's keen, and I am perfect physics and perfect trust, flying. Poem that wanted to be an apple. Wanted to twist oxygen and light into flesh, one of many red bells in the trees, revered as scholars or gods. Poem that wanted to be 25% air, wanted to glad haunt the orchard, the bushel, the bowl, and the table. Wanted teeth on skin, that good pain, nod to a tight constellation of seeds, dark database exposed. Poem that wanted to be known, to be necessary, to rest in the palm of your hand. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for giving me a little bit of reprieve after the one about parenting during the pandemic, so I could wipe the tears to get up here again. Yeah. I'd like to take a little moment now and ask if we could put up the QR code and talk a little bit about the donations again. So these are some QR codes. You can use this one to follow us on social media. Like I said, you know how algorithms work. We're all just subject to the algorithms these days. So you can help us without any money at all, just by following us on our socials. And if possible, like sharing, liking, subscribing, commenting, all of that will help boost our profile, which will generate more donations, also make us look good to the funding bodies, you know what I mean? Like, so please, if you have money, we'd love your donations. If you don't, totally understood. Follow us on socials, we'd really like that. Oh yes, and also like if you're on YouTube right now, like you could hit like on this recording and you could subscribe, and then you could go back and hit like on all of our previous ones. That really helps boost us up in the YouTube algorithm. People who go on there looking for literary stuff will be like, oh, what's this? Oh, I disappeared. that's an awesome poet. I'm gonna watch this whole show. And so that would really help us. Thank you very much. And now we are going to go to Alberta. Just gonna whip you all up and take you to Alberta because our next reader is there. Primi Mohammed is a multiple award-winning Indo-Caribbean scientist and speculative fiction author based in Edmonton, Alberta. In 2024, she was the Edmonton Public Library Writer-in-Residence, and her short fiction has appeared in several best-of anthologies. Primi!
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope my audio is okay. Someone let me know in chat if it is not. About a minute ago, I decided to change the story I was reading. So I haven't ever read this one before. Here is a good chance to find out if I've included anything that sounds weird when it's read out loud. And this is called Everyone Keeps Saying Probably, which is a story that was published on Psychopomp Press in January of this year. And please excuse my voice. I've been coughing a lot because of my asthma, so please be patient with me. Thank you. Everyone keeps saying probably. Here is the shape of our story, the three of us. An ellipsis from a particular fixed point. We flew away from each other and then rejoined at another point, and then we had you. Here is the shape of our doom, an ellipsis, on its way, in its thousands and thousands. It also means ... an uncertainty, a trailing off. But you are a little young for all this. You are so young that your soft and hard palate are not fully developed, and you still have a toddler's charming roticism. Everyone keeps saying probably, and you say probably. And I think that is the only thing your mother still laughs at these days because, let's be fair, there isn't much. For grown-ups, I mean, you laugh all day. And I would never have known that before signing up to be the one who stayed home with you. When the atmospheric noises begin and the sirens outside start to wail, we get a special treat. I turn on Mackenzie Webster Can Do It, and I crank the volume. Together, we dance to the songs, and we watch the Webster family wreck and fix their bright, untidy lives. You turn to me at egregious pratfalls and gasp, Dada, Dada, look, to make sure I got the joke, to make sure I'm laughing. The sirens make me want to scream, but I laugh. Too little for daycare, my darling son, so we are raising you on cartoons and music, playdates with the dogs next door, and the middle-aged ladies on the other side. I don't know if it's good for normal development, but Mama says we're all going to have to give up on normal if we want to stay sort of sane these days, and that applies to everybody. It's tough to bring up kids at the end of the world. Who knew? Not us. It's funny how many of the scientists at this complex don't have kids, or don't have kids anymore. Older folks, brisk power walkers. We see them in the morning from the kitchen window. White-haired, friendly, with every accent in the world. They pop multivitamins casually while they talk to you, like cough drops. Their kids are all in their 20s and 30s. Your mama and I aren't planning for a sibling, my son, not even a dog. Not that you'd mind. You are so little, you think the whole world revolves around you. It does a bit. You were one of the last babies born before the warning shot. Just 3 months old when it happened. You won't remember the weeks we spent in the shelter. Everyone wanted to hold you, snuggle you when you cried, walk you up and down the faintly luminescent hallways, while Mama fretted and Dada slept. After the impact, the kind of people who were able to stop having children did stop, and they haven't started again. It's all too unsure. Here is what your mama is doing at the Institute. Writing things like statistical probability and impact severity on the big crackling displays, drawing curved lines with her index finger while people nod or sob. Risk assessment is likelihood times consequence. This can be numbers, or it can be colors, or it can be other categories, for example, groupings related to proportions of the population at existential risk. Everyone keeps saying probably. Everyone keeps saying existential risk is a threat to continuing existence, not related to a certain quality of life. Your mama sleeps in her office sometimes, they all do it. She calls home after you're asleep. I will tell you this again if you get older. And in my sock feet, I softly take the phone into your room because she doesn't like the moire effect of pointing it at the baby monitor. We are funny about some technologies and not others, just like you. Our home country, which you have never seen, arrested and deported and fired and surveilled all its scientists, like your mama, and not like me. When the warning shot came, I was a graphic designer. I was hurt, a bit, that all my work dried up, but then I suppose you don't need that many posters for the apocalypse. It was all right. She had already come back to me, and we moved a few times to keep our work visas, and then we settled here, with its clear air and its telescopes and its clusters of weird science in every valley. Here are the synchrotrons, here are the cyclotrons, here are the eyes peering out at the universe like a spider in a crevice. She says things like, the seeing is good tonight, but no one's looking anymore. That's all math and distant telescopes sending back numbers, spectra, temperatures, sounds. They look at readouts, not stars. We came up with a snappy name for the warning shot. We don't have one for what's coming. For a while, our feet didn't touch the ground. Then every flight had to be grounded and our feet never left it. But no one's feet did, so that was all right. And the whole world, my son, came together. Just like the song we sing when we pick up your toys. They came together and unearthed the living, buried the dead, scrubbed the air, built the tidal turbines and the wind farms, screwed into the earth for geothermal energy, built the aquaculture towers to grow the produce we couldn't grow without sun. We saw blue skies again. We congratulated ourselves on not going the way of the dinosaurs. We sent planes back up. And then someone said, "What's that?" Listen, man to man, your mama and I broke up in graduate school. We were walking cliches, the high energy, high ambition nerd, and the weird English major, soon to be dropout, with the Byron quotes and the silly hat. We agreed to stay friends, and then she didn't speak to me again for 7 years. Your mama does not know what the word reverence means. Possibly literally. I don't know if they talk about it in planetary astrophysics. Maybe they should. Maybe not, though, because I will feel it all on her behalf so that she can work. I want us to be the safe place she lands when she comes home. I want to hand you to her and remember the moment the way she doesn't and the way you can't. I remember how things feel. She remembers how they were. Between the two of us, we can usually cobble together something fairly accurate. I forget who I used to be pretty regularly, so does she. But together, we know exactly who we are and why. And then we added you. Early, but perfect. Apparently too stunned for several days to even cry, just staring around yourself as if you had blown in from Kansas and seen color for the first time. When she came back to me, she said, sometimes lying in my arms in the tiny apartment, "Was it like this? I don't remember it being like this." Sleepy, smiling, happy to be back. We were still then, temporarily, we were at rest. What is she doing there at the Institute? I'll never understand the math. I know there will be more impact bodies. We've stopped arguing over whether to call them comets or cometoids or asteroids or asteroids. That much we all know now. I know Jupiter's gravity has for many billions of years been pulling these things away from the other planets in the solar system and letting others through, and that Earth has been lucky. I know sometimes Jupiter does the opposite of that. I know things are coming our way, in tens of thousands most likely. We don't know the number very precisely. It's hard to fight what you don't know. It's hard to guess. Sometimes you hunger to know for sure, even if the answer is bad. Your mama wants to be Jupiter for us. Keep anything bad far away. She has become someone I barely recognize. At all times, she is posed and poised like someone getting ready to throw a punch. A meaningful one, with all her meager weight behind it. That is her body language now. Oh, she's ready to fight, ready to kill. She needs only a target, and I want to hold her sometimes and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry there's no target for you. For the thousands like you. There are too many targets, one fist won't land. She is the sword. I am something else, not mystical shield or healing sheath, but even less of narrative note, not even given a name in passing. I am the bowl of oil and sand that cleans the blade, keeps it shining. Maybe we are all something in the story, though, not just those of us married to the fighters. I read somewhere that the Manhattan Project employed 125,000 people at its peak, and maybe twice that in support staff. But saving the world must call for more than that. Maybe every hand, every mind. Maybe me, I'm not sure, making beef Foganoff and making sure it's hot when she staggers home. Maybe you, I am not sure. Contributing little more than perfect curls, how? And laughter that snorts when you start and you can't stop. Nobody wants to be unsure. We can all deceive ourselves about intent, and we can do it as much as we want. But even if there is no path ahead, we go on. Even when we know we might put a foot wrong, we go on. The next step after that might be right, or more right. Where hope lives is uncertainty. We never throw ourselves into battle for a sure thing. And you, my son, with the name we gave you that means something different in 4 languages, you too are hope. Let the world live for that. Let it hold up sword and shield for that. What does probable mean? I spend a lot of time on the rug now, down at your level. When the world ends, I want to be looking into your eyes. Thank you.
Oh, what parenting feels tonight. Guy Uston is a UK-born, Toronto-based poet. His debut collection is the Character Actor Convention for the Porcupine's Quill 2025. His poems have appeared in the Mallet Hat Review, the Literary Review of Canada, the Ex-Puritan, Grain, CV2, and elsewhere. He is a member of the Meet the Presses Collective. Welcome.
Brian. I got it.
Yes, these are the adjustment.
Is it this one? This is a kind of funky, different stand than I'm used to.
This isn't like they're all scales.
Right. It's not that.
Is the highest it can go?
I think it's
There
good.
you go.
We got it. We got it.
Okay.
Thank
is
you
that
so
right?
much. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
Let's go ahead.
Same ones as the old location.
Yeah, it's swanky. Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here. This is the first reading I've done since I started trying to grow a mustache a couple of years ago. So we'll see if that was like the missing piece, if this awkward mustache is the X factor I really need. I'm doing a Zoom with my mum on Friday. That's going to be the first moment. She's not going to be happy. So. Okay, I'm just going to dive right in with a couple of new poems. This one is called Purge. I have this constant urge to throw up, the sponge says. It's not that I need to, I'd just like to. Really freshen up. No, it's not like that, he says at my look. I'm not going to. It's just an itch, a wish, almost a memory, you know? Well, I begin, making my words slow. That's interesting. Maybe it would be good to talk about that with someone. Oh God, forget I said anything, he groans. He's sitting in one of those little cages that sticks to the side of the sink. Just forget it. I'm classically trained, you know. At what? I ask. He snorts, gulps, and dribbles a little grey soap. I got one more in a similar vein. This one's called Plenty. The half jar of peanut butter keeps touching her own face. She's running her nails over glass, her thumb pads through lid grooves. You can still see me okay, right? She asks. Okay. I got about 15 large portions left, she continues, give or take. At an average of 2 a week, that's nearly 2 months. Plenty. It's going to be a great summer, she concludes. Though Kay is coming to stay, and he quite likes PB&Js. I smile and nod, understanding, hand on the cupboard door. She unscrews, reaches in, and starts pulling handfuls out. So this is the book, it's called The Character Actor Convention. The title comes from the fact that there's a lot of different personas and characters in the book. So it's a little different than like most poetry collections in that way. There's kind of like a carnival feel with a lot of animals and plants and objects, like you heard, all have a voice and all speaking throughout the book. Something else there's quite a lot of in the book are like a lot of the poems have little epigraphs which are inspired by usually headlines I read. I'm someone who consumes a lot of like pop science headlines on my feed, the kind of like often nonsense science articles or headlines. When you click on that headline, the article is actually like isn't really, that's not what's quite happening. But I get inspiration from those. I find headlines really interesting. It's these like little pieces of micro writing that we engage with all the time. We consume a lot of them and throw them away. So the headline that inspired this poem was "Teaching Rats to Drive Taught Scientists About Joy." And if you look this one up, there is a pretty cute video, like the little rat's in the car, and he's not using his feet, but with his front paw, I guess that's still a foot, he's got a button, and he's going around the lab, like he really quite enjoys it. And it taught scientists something about joy, so there you go. It's called Sunday Drive. Guess who's drinking Pepsi now? Guess who's frequenting strip malls? Lab rats are ready. No, highly optimized for suburban living. Not a road or a street, but a strode of neural pathways, excited, expanded, pleasure-generating zones repaved for convenience and growth. Wild rats give up in minutes, but lab rats paddle for days in water-filled cylinders, believing in, beseeching human hands. Rat, your suffering's over. Rev your engines, blow a kiss. Race the raised expressway, separating us from our indifference. Yeah, this one, again, I'm kind of doing them in pairs, I guess, tonight. I didn't really think about this, but this one's quite similar. And the headline for this one was "Mushroom Learns to Crawl After Being Given Robot Body." There have been other ones like this. You might have seen one that's like the mushroom but can play the piano now. Like they hook up some kind of electro system to mushrooms, and electro impulses are coursing through even a mushroom to some low extent, and they kind of then hook that up to whatever they want it to be, a piano or a, in this case, like robot legs, and then the electro impulses drive some kind of activity. And this one was pretty interesting because they found that if they shone light on the mushroom robot, it would like slowly over time edge away from the light. But this one's called The Work. Our words no longer correspond to this world. Body, robot, learns. These are shotgun signs, half leaning. Crawl one way, the other, reconfirm everybody's cursed. Ice cream doesn't even resemble itself in photos. They use mashed potatoes instead. That hurts. The dark is just dark, just mind dank, Past where purpose has electric meaning, piano wire snap. Another fine, dataful day. Yours to capture, sift, react. All is irony, says the scientist. And here's another riddled wink. Take heart, brave mushroom. It never ends until it does. Thank you. This is one of the oldest poems in the book, actually. And it is maybe one of the more confessional kind of moments in it. Like I said, most of the drive of the book is towards different personas, these weird kind of science articles as well, like a lot of kind of, there's a slightly off the wall vibe to most of it, I guess. But this one is maybe a little more from the heart. And it's called I Swear. I swear it isn't every time my penis doesn't really work. I take a bath and read a listicle. 55 celebrities whose birth names will surprise you. And I learned Dean Martin's wasn't Dino Martino. I'm about to drop my phone in the bath. And I read too that archaeologists have excavated another slaves' room at Pompeii, which they claim offers rare insight. Rotating to landscape, I keep my hands dry with a towel on the toilet lid. It's an ash-washed, half-storage, half-bedroom, no window, pots and tight beds waiting, still alive. I turn the hot tap with my left toes. When the pyroclastic flow comes rolling down the mountain and the sky is lost, we must remember the soil will be fertile in 15 years. It's not the end of the world. Will people believe anything? I'm kneeling on the bath mat, whispering Dino Crocetti to a wet iPhone 8, like it could cause an uneruption. When I wrote that poem, it was an iPhone 6, because that's what I have at the time. And then for some reason, when editing for the book, I changed it to an iPhone 8, like in case it mattered, anyone would check what iPhone I had. And last weekend, I got a new iPhone, an iPhone 12. So I'm getting there. I'm always a few years behind, I guess. So I'll do 3 more. One other kind of poem, which there's a few of in the book, is I think of them as like meeting poems. So they're a bit like the ones with the objects you heard earlier, but a few of these are like meeting historical and mythical figures. So this one is called Treasure. Of course, they kept all the treasure intact. I guess I'm not one. Tutankhamun laughs, like only the young can. They peeled my skull. They pulled my limbs off for science, or was it for history? They even chopped off he glances at me, well, you know. Yeah, they went full British Museum on my ass. Take the jewels, leave the corpse, put no cartouche on my name. But you're an icon now, a symbol of wonder, I insist. His tomb is smaller than I expected. He smiles a bit unkindly. Well, I'm glad you like my mask. You know, my father believed in only one God, even thought he knew him. Silly man. I just made myself one. Do you think it's possible to know a God? I ask, edging closer, trying to keep my breath steady. He spits out a tooth, and it clatters off a gold relief. Come on, man, he says. I'm 19. Okay, yeah, I'll do 2 more. As maybe you can tell, I'm not from around here. I grew up in Oxford in the UK. I moved here about 5 years ago. And yeah, I think that's all the context you need for this one. It's called Homesick. In my country, every street is paved with nettles and every document is inlaid with ants. People use the same words they always have, eroding accents with limestone tongues. The sun in my country stuns horses already impotent and heavy with horseflies. Beauty is not an ideal in my country, but a taxpayer-funded, licensed service. You may compare beauties with your neighbors, leaving comments in red suggestion boxes. Roads in my country admit single file, one way only. And if you take a wrong turn, you'll have to go around the whole landmass. In my country, every woman, man, child, and pet is personally responsible for the fate of the nation. But this is unsaid. Instead, you speak of willows among nettles and hum. It would be a mistake to ask, have you ever been to my country? Because it is not in fact a country, not exactly, but some other form of myth. Every time you're born somewhere with no choice but to leave, no choice but to carry with you, and no choice but to come back, you'll know again the sickness of loving some other home you couldn't describe while you might have. Okay, yeah, I'll close on this one. As I said, there's a lot of poems in the book from the perspective of animals. And this one, from the perspective of a songbird, but I think, it's pretty obviously about being a poet as well. But yeah, this one's called Songbird. And before I go, I should say again, thank you to Dorianne and everyone at Brockton for putting this together. And it's really awesome to be here at the new location of Glad Day. So thanks for coming out, everybody. Yeah, Songbird. Nothing worse than forgetting a good first line. No matter. Open throat, vent lilt. I've got a license to trill. The power that made me blessed me, I swear. There's no concept of quality inhibiting me now. I'm a verse of nature, hook with inherent self-singing, bridge of skies, to revisit, revise. These insecurities are empty as prizes. What's certain is voice only. There's an old songbird joke. Question, how do you tell a happy song from a sad song? Answer, I'm sorry, were you singing something? That's the problem with being naturally gifted. I pour out fresh, full of soul each morning, but so do all the others. I hope trees listen. Thanks, everybody.
So we have one more reader for you tonight, but we encourage you not to run straight off into the chilly autumn night. We want to create a sense of community here at Brockton. So please say hi to a reader who you liked and maybe buy their book. Guy has books to sell. Lisa has books to sell. Farzana has books to sell. There's you. Everybody's got books to sell. Oh my God, buy a book, say hi, and get to know each other. Now I'm gonna pull up my last bio of the night and put on my reading glasses, which I'm having a hard time getting used to. Thérèse Mason-Pierre is an award-winning writer and editor whose work has been published in The Walrus, Room, Brick, Fantasy, and elsewhere. She is the author of Myth, a poetry collection, and the editor of As the Earth Dreams, an anthology of Black Canadian SFF fiction. Thérèse lives in Toronto.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Hello, YouTube. Yeah, my name is Thérèse, and I'm going to read a little bit from my story in As the Earth Dreams, as well as some poems from Myth. Just briefly, As the Earth Dreams is a collection of Black Canadian speculative stories. It's launching tomorrow at Harlem Restaurant, where I will be reading a different excerpt from the story. But I'll start with this and then I'll read about 2 or 3 poems. I also apologize if I'm like really low energy. I woke up at 3 a.m. for no reason. And I have not gotten any sleep yet, but I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me. So my story is called A Fair Assessment. Miss Zinnia's Antiques and Vintage Shop was located on the eastern edge of Parkdale on Queen, flanked by an overpriced cafe and a meek instrument rental store. I worked there as a part-time appraiser. My commute was long, but I was grateful. Anything to get away from my fintech roommates. We frequently hosted parties on Saturday nights and spent the next day hungover and useless. I got to the shop at 8 a.m. that Sunday, my breath still forming white clouds despite CP24's promise of spring. The front room was filled with shelves and cabinets housing all manner of old, once loved valuables, dish sets, jewelry, purses, and more, washed in a soft gold glow when I turned on the lights. By the cash register, on a single tea-stained sheet of paper, Miss Zinnia had written in her swirling script 2 columns, treasure and hope. Under treasure, a list of new goods she'd acquired from her long winter sojourns to God knows where. Under hope, what she thought each item would be worth in Canadian dollars. My job was to verify. Grabbing the list, I started in the back room where I found boxes and boxes of Miss Zinnia's carefully wrapped treasures tagged with bright orange labels. This would take me all day. A wooden table nearly bisected the room. I sat on the side closest to the door. I pushed my coworkers' projects and paperwork to one side of the table, making space for me to work. I opened my leather kit and pulled out my tools. A grimoire the size of my palm, a clay bowl I painted pink, 2 canvas pouches of cemetery soil and salt, and other elixirs necessary for my casting. In order to determine how to price each item, I'd have to ask the original owner, learn the stories. The customers liked the stories, and so did I. Most importantly, I'd have to find out if any item had its own well of latent magic, which would be detectable regardless of if the spirit came to me when invited. We couldn't sell cursed items, at least not to ordinary humans. Ms. Zinnia had learned this lesson with a set of knives from England. When she was younger, fresh off the plane from Trinidad, the glint of capitalist naivete bright in her eyes, and she had been wary ever since. Ms. Zinnia did some magic too, of course, mostly for basic household chores and quick transport when she wanted to avoid airports. But this kind of work was beyond her skill, so she'd hired me 8 years ago. I filled the clay bowl with warm water and the other required elixirs and flipped to the correct page in the grimoire. I'd memorized the spell long ago, but the book was more of a security blanket. I was experienced, yes, but also self-taught, and mistakes were riskier. I sprinkled some dirt in as large a circle as I could, then traced that circle with salt. I picked up the first of Zinnia's haul, a china set, and placed it in the center. I dipped one hand in the water to ground myself and lay the fingers of my other hand on the item. I spoke the spell and felt my body relax into routine, the contours of my voice turning into something old and dark. The dead, like the living, had complicated feelings about their things. I learned this for the first time. I invited a spirit into Miss Zinnia's shop for an appraisal. It was during open hours, my first mistake, and I'd been distracted. I held up a denim jacket, dark wash with patches on the shoulders and pockets, and asked the spirit how much this might be worth. My second mistake, not building rapport, despite how inherently weak I knew these connections were. The spirit, a white man, British, in his 80s, had reached over the table as if he could touch the jacket, as if he could take it with him to the hereafter, demanding to know where I'd gotten it. I didn't know where Miss Zinnia had gotten it and told him that, but he grew restless. So restless, he tried to inhabit my own body, push my own spirit out. That hadn't happened since I started casting in my mid-teens, and I thought I'd be better by then, at 21. When I told Miss Zinnia about it, she'd asked if she should hire a second caster for my protection, and so I wouldn't be too exhausted. But I quickly reassured her that I could handle it and it wouldn't happen again. Lord, girl, don't be so desperate. I'm not trying to fire you, Miss Zinnia said as we passed a joint back and forth on the bench outside afterward, while I shook and water streamed from my eyes. But I'd wanted so badly to be good at this, to be good at anything. And I was now. I got better at reading the spirit's temperaments and knowing when it was time to release them. Sometimes the spirits were aggressive or excited to talk to someone, anyone. Sometimes they were confused, having no memory of ever purchasing the item. Sometimes they hated the entire endeavor and asked that I release my bind, not caring at all about their former possessions. Sometimes we didn't understand each other, but that was okay. And now I'm going to read two poems from my poetry collection, Myth. Both these books came out this year, which I don't recommend doing. One book a year, everyone. Okay, but no, I'm very grateful. Both books are with House of Anansi also. So the first poem I'm going to read from the collection is the first poem in the collection, Fishing. My grandfather says we can eat what we kill. We wade into the water and find a shark. In the bleeding night, we carry it home across the mountain. The way your feet land before mine, I memorize. I copy your plan for leading me out of this spectacular cycle, folded in and over ourselves until our parents finally call for the doctor. Our love has never allowed itself to be gutted. Reach a hand in there, all the way in there. Pull out a heart, lungs, digestive apparatus. I love your legs in the water. I told your sister when she fell from the cliff that I wished it had been me who wailed over, ripping the clothes off your back, your black skin raw. We are too final for the gardens they sing about in church. Our hands never come close to holding whatever hot, shining city we're meant to love, to share. This body between us is dangerous, a clattering prehistoric wound. Our bodies are weapons, and we know that. We know no one wants this fish or its live birth, just its teeth around our necks. We can toss it back into the sea. We could empty it into my mouth, down my spine. And the final poem that I will read is one that I don't read very often. It's called La Jobless. And it's kind of like a speculative fantasy type poem, I think. And La Jobless is like a demon spirit from Caribbean folklore. She's a woman who is like half human. She's like one human foot and one cow foot. And she kind of lures men to their demise. Content warning for sexual assault. La Jobless. She never walks completely on the road. She wears a dress a shade of blue that doesn't exist, a color my mother saw when she nearly died projecting me into this world, and the sky and water turned this godly shade. As a seamstress, an artist, my mother was never satisfied again with what the earth could produce. This blue woman is best friends with the dark and Flora. We don't talk about where she comes from. We wait for a man to drive by this lonely road at night, spot her, stop her. She wears a hat like a tourist, which she is, one leg in this land, one leg outside a slit, both hands grasping. Every man, I suppose, must compare to the deal maker. I never wondered how close she was with him, how deep she dipped her black toe into the role of vessel, of enemy. I imagine she is fine with the skin on her face. It's leather and fur. The hat has a purpose, see, or no man would go willingly. At the sound of his chirps, she casts a spell. Here is where I get jealous. When I was younger, a man followed me home and quartered me behind my father's garage, told me to lift my dress, remove my panties. Within spitting distance of hammers, drills, and acid, I refused. And then I don't remember. But perhaps I saw that same blue, the blue this woman swishes, this woman animals and goddesses around night after night. The spell is in the disappearing, in the wild way he wails through the trees. When I first heard of her, I thought she'd have sex with them before their dispatch. Later, I learned it was never about sex, it was about power. I want to see her whole face, her victory pose, heifer on high, backlit by the moon as a man crashes to his doom. But there are different kinds of power too. When I am alone, I walk half on grass, half on the street. No one stops me these days. I wear pants. I bottle the lore my mind allows me to think about on days I want to be controlled by a demon. I dream about blue when I want to die. Thank you.
Okay, it's just me with our final comments. So instead of adjusting this thing, I'm just gonna hold it in hands. This is down. So thank you, everybody, for being here with us tonight. I love being here. I love seeing you all. Our next Brockton is January 14th, 2026. It will be going forward. Thanks to our wonderful volunteers here who got us the Toronto Arts Council grant. We'll definitely be back for January. Thank you to the Toronto Arts Council if you're watching. Thank you. Love. So we'll be back here in person at Glad Day and also on YouTube. We will have readings from Leslie Shimotakahara, Tamara Young, Jess Batiste, and Maurice Fellacoup. And as always, we'll have a guest speaker to talk on a topic related to the art, craft, and business of writing. Thank you very much. See you in January. Bye.
For Q&A.
What?
For Q&A.
Oh, it's a Q&A. Oh my God. What happened? See, this is what happens when I do this alone. With the Q&A. We gotta do the Q&A. Authors, get up there. Oh my God. No, nobody's keeping me in line. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna bring up some seats here for you. Thank you so much, Faye. Got more Faye. Oh, somebody's got more chairs. You'll all remember who's coming up in January though, right? Okay.
Oh, I don't have to read
All right. All right, so if our authors can have nice seats. And I'll see if there's any questions from the audience. There's actually here, why don't you take this one because it's on? What was your question? Can you see us? Yeah. Can you see them? Hi. Hi. All right. Hi, Bruni. Can Bruni see the authors?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. All right.
Hi, Dress.
Okay. I have a question. What is your cat's name?
This guy is named Fiasco because he's a disaster, but just a little one.
I love that. That is a great name for a cat, and that is a great looking cat. Yeah. Questions from the audience about writing or reading, and not necessarily cats. Yeah.
Just a question for Lisa in just imagining poetry coming out of the pandemic. I want to know, was that a great time for writing poetry? Because of
Weirdly, yes. There's a section in my book that's all pandemic poetry. It was rough. I don't want to do it again. Would like to skip the next pandemic. But yeah, my kid, it's a long story, but after a certain point, my kid was napping reliably. And yeah, I was just like hanging on to writing for dear life. Like I need something not easy, but I need to be in the flow of something that's for me and feels like, you know, a good thing from my life before I was suddenly parenting a very young child in early days of COVID. So yeah, it was good for writing, and I'd like to write prolifically in ways that aren't horrifically stressful in future, please.
But it was like one of the one things you could still do. Right? That's how I feel like it was for me. It was like everything else is taken away, but this one thing
Yeah,
I can still do like I always did because it's just the me and my computer thing.
yeah, and there's lots of material.
Yeah.
Life was not boring.
Mm.
Oh, except when it was. Anyways, someone take the microphone. I don't want to talk about pandemic anymore, but thank you for the question.
Okay. I mean, did anybody else have experiences of pandemic writing that, yeah.
Yeah, my poetry book was mostly pandemic. It's not poetry about the pandemic, but it was written 2019 to 2022.
Mhm.
So like most of it like during like lockdowns.
Mhm.
I also had a lot of time. I was still going to work. But it was the kind of work where like it wasn't creatively engaging me, so I was still able to like write poetry. And yeah, which is not the same anymore, but that's okay.
Not the same in what way?
Well, now my job, I work for the library. So before I was just shelving books and all I really needed to know was the alphabet and how numbers worked, which is very mindless. But now my job is like creating programming for children and adults. So I'm like, what do they like? So it's taking from the same well as like writing poetry is. So I'm finding writing a little bit more difficult. I'm getting paid more money, but no, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's like great career development. Congratulations. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah.
Therese, the collection of short stories, as I said to you before, is incredible. I urge everyone to buy it, but I have a question about editing because each of the stories is so unique and different. Those are the same word, but I wanted to know about the editing process and how challenging it was to get a story and then decide you want to do something to it, even though does that make
It makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So all of these stories were like commissioned, so they were all original stories. So I gave authors like a year and a half-ish to write the stories. So most of them, when they came to me, they're already pretty good because these are all like professional writers with like writing jobs and books and things. So the stories were already pretty great when I got them. But I've been editing in journals, magazines, in one way or another since I was 17. So I have like a lot of editing experience. So at this point right now, I feel like it's very intuitive, but I'm able to talk to authors about where they see their story going. And with speculative writers in particular, they have a very clear idea usually of what they want their stories to be like and the impact they want their readers to have. And also a lot of these folks are like friends of mine. So the conversations were very like smooth and like not complicated at all. The challenge was just editing 9 stories. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
I have another question for Therese. Okay, thank you.
Can you speak a little bit more to Caribbean myths and kind of how they've worked with your poems and your writing and the conversation between the two?
I haven't gotten this question in so long. Yeah, so I started writing speculative poetry in around 2019 when I started writing myth. And I got really excited thinking about, because like every culture has like their own mythology. So I was like, well, instead of like writing about something that's not my culture, I'll just write about my culture. So I would ask my parents from like, like bedtime stories they used to get. And a lot of the myths and folklore in the Caribbean specifically are like, well, not a lot of them, but quite a couple of them are built around keeping people safe. So they'd be like, oh, well, you shouldn't go on the beach because there's this like tall, I forgot, I think it's called like the moonwalker or something. There's like Slender Man type figure on the beach who will like walk around the beach and step on you if he sees you. But really that was just to keep children away from caimans who would come to the beach at night and, cause them real harm. So a lot of the stories are kind of similar to that. And I found them really fascinating to incorporate them into my work. Myth, the poetry collection has like not just Caribbean myths, but also like aliens and like mermaids and was like an apocalypse poem. So I find the speculative, I find poetry specifically to be a very good medium for the speculative, because I feel like poetry as a form is already speculative, so it just helps.
There's kind of, sorry, is there other questions from the audience? Because I was just thinking, I think this went on, that there was actually kind of a interesting through line of speculative stuff going on here tonight, even though, right, like we've got the talking sponge, and you know, you had a specifically speculative poem, and I didn't do that on purpose. But so I guess my question is kind of like, you know, for Lisa and I, you know, like I programmed you as poets, like I don't know, where does that instinct come from to do something kind of outside of realism?
Okay, sure, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a tough question for me. I think it's like, how far back do you want to go? Because like this just started for me, writing poems in with these different voices and persona poems is something I kind of stumbled across, and I was really resistant to it at first. So I think like a lot of young poets, I had the feeling that like I want to talk about myself. You know, this is a lot of your favorite poems are confessional, to use that word, and you know, you want to. I know someone like Sylvia Plath is still like, it's like the best stuff you've ever read, and you want to be that. And there's something that was like difficult about stepping out of that and being like, maybe I don't have anything that interesting to say about myself. And at first I started realizing that I just should start like keep following what's actually working for me rather than what I want to do, and take a little bit of like ego out of it. And so that's what I told myself. And then after a while of writing these kind of persona poems, I realized that for whatever reason, it's really working for me. I'm actually getting more of myself in these poems than I ever was before. I'm just taking like a way round. And for whatever reason, that unlocks it for me. I think I have thought about it a lot, and I think it does, like all things, go back to childhood for me. I grew up in a house with a lot of pets, a lot of animals. And I remember when I was a kid, all the animals had a voice, right? So we would go around and me and my sister would just talk to each other through the dogs and the lizards. And we had ponies too. And like other animals at some time. So it was like all of them had a little voice, and we would communicate that way, like doing impressions, and like, oh, if you notice the dog's hungry, you don't say, oh, I think he's hungry. You put on his voice and you say like, I'm hungry or whatever. And I think that is somewhere deep buried within me. And that's why now, like, I find it easier to maybe, yeah, approach poetry through that other way around. I'm also trying to explore other ways of doing it too, but for the first book, that really just seemed to work for me.
I just love science fiction. I've loved science fiction for longer than I've loved poetry. And when I figured out I could write like both at the same time, it was really exciting. I haven't managed to really write anymore. I've written only like 4 or 5, but I would really like to. I just find it a lot harder.
Is it hard? Sorry, it's harder to write
I
science
find
fiction
it
and
harder
poetry?
to write science fiction poems, but I think they're cool as shit, and I would really like to.
Therese, do you have a thought about that?
I want to let Primi.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were talking about poetry. I don't write poems. I've heard of poems.
Or like how you come to science fiction.
Oh, I don't think reality is all that interesting. I think we should be writing speculative fiction, because if we don't speculate in the literature of the imagination, what are we going to write about? People? Boring.
I started writing science fiction or speculative poetry because I was a speculative poetry editor at Augur magazine, where I'm still technically a speculative poetry editor. But I was like, well, I should write the thing that I purport to help people edit, or it looks bad on me. So I started writing it, started reading it, and I just fell in love with like how much you can do. I'm a big lover of metaphor. That's like all of poetry. And that's like all of speculative literature. So It was a great marriage of the two.
It's awesome. Anything from YouTube? No, okay, great, so we're gonna end the night and last call for questions. Okay, with our oh, yeah, no, yeah.
Oh, no, I was gonna ask if you were gonna ask.
I was. Right, no, it's good, because I'm off my game tonight, so keep me real, keep me in check. With our question that we always ask at Brockton, which is, give us one, ideally just one, book recommendation of something that you've read somewhat recently, so that it's kind of fresh in your mind, doesn't necessarily have to be published recently, but something you've read somewhat recently, it's only one book. And we always do a post online where all the recommendations, we gather them. So who can think of one first? Okay, Preemie.
Just because I was recently gushing about this at a literary festival, I'm gonna have to recommend The Saint of Bright Doors by Vajra Chandrasekhara, which is so good. And I think the analogy I used was I felt like one of those like dried up dead desert plants until I read that book. And when I got to the end, it was like I had just gotten splashed with water and I was turning green again and just coming back to life. That is how much I loved that book. Everyone go read it.
That is amazing. Faye just fist pumped, so I think that we've got seconds on that rack. All right.
I'm only halfway through it, but it's easily one of the best memoirs I've ever read. It's called You Will Not Kill Our Imagination. It's by Saeed Tibi. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And it's a memoir of Palestine and writing in dark times, and it's so good.
I feel like my favorite book I read over the last few years is Olga Tokarczuk's, now what's it called? It's a long title, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. I'm sure people have read it already, but some have, but that's really killer. And that really does it for me because it brings a lot of stuff together. Like it is very literary and smart, but it's also doing cool stuff with genre work. And it just feels really like of the moment as well. So yeah, love that one.
You can't see it, but you got a seconds from Preemie behind you.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good physical seconding there.
A book by another Olga. Olga Ron's The Employees, which is a workplace novel of the 22nd century, written by a Danish author, Olga Ron. And it's a novel written in fragments. It's about a bunch of people who go on a spaceship and travel to a different planet, pick up some weird objects, and then weird things happen to them. So very deep, the writing is so beautiful, but it's also science fiction. So
Love that. Okay, thank you, everybody. This time I think we're wrapping up for real. See you January 14th.
thank you.